My name is Zach Anderson, and in today's video, I will be going over project or lab number 1. So without further ado, let's begin. First, let's begin with part 1. So I downloaded the file given to us in the project outline, and we get to the initial page with all the information on it. So if we can refresh it here, we see all of this. And as it says in the instructions, we do HTTP lowercase, and that gives us these specific things to answer the questions. So before we do this, it says to give 3 different types of protocols. So if we go back to this, we can see I did MDNS, TCP, and ARP. So by scrolling through this, we can find all of those. And so that answers question number 1. And for question number 2, that's when we have to move to HTTP. And we can see the time difference between the get and the fetch. So very, very little, 0.04 seconds, as we can see the difference. So super, super fast, but just easy little math here. As you can see the number here, 04. And then for the last part, or for the last question of part 1, it was asking about what the IP address for the UMass is and what the IP address for this computer is. So we can see that when we're getting it, it'll come from the source to the destination. So we know that this first one is going to be this computer's IP, and the second one will be the address's IP. And with that, we are good to move on to part number 2. To begin part number 2 here, I downloaded the provided file so we can answer questions 1 through 7. So let's begin. So question 1, is it running 1.0 or 1.1? We can come over here and see that in all of these lines, it specifies that we are running HTTP version 1.1. So that is super easy. And then there is no language indicated. So we simply put not indicated because it would have its own little area, and here it does not. For question 3, very similar. It's the exact same as the one above, but we can see source and destination differs slightly for this first one, but on our get and retrieve, they are the exact same. So we see the 192 is this, and then the 128 is the Gaia UMass EDU server. For question number 4, we are looking for a status code returned from the server to the browser. So if we scroll over here, we can see the status code will come after these 2 messages. So 200 OK is the status code. As you can see for question number 5, it's similar to the second one. It is not indicated anywhere on this screen. So we are good to put not indicated and then move on. And for question 6, how many bytes of content are being returned? So we go to when it comes back to us, which is here. We see from the server back to this computer. We can see the length, which is going to be the amount of bytes, will be at 540. So no, that is good. And question 7, so by inspecting the raw data, do you see any headers within the data that are not displayed? For question 2 and 4, this answers it perfectly. There is no last modified header, so that is a perfect example of one that is not here. Next, we downloaded the information for questions 8 through 11, so let's hop right into that. Inspect the contents of the first. Do you see an if modified since line in the HTTP get? So if we go to the first, we do not see an if modified since line here. So we simply put I do not. And then we inspect the contents of the response. Did the server explicitly return the contents of the file? And we can say yes, and we know this because of our 200 OK message, letting us know that the status code of 200 OK, everything was returned. For question 10, inspect the second HTTP get. So we have boom, and we can do this guy. Do you see an if modified since line? We do not. So there is no if modified since header in the second HTTP get request. So we just simply put that. And for question 11, and then what is the status code and phrase returned from the server in response? So in response, we can see a 304 not modified. So its status that was the status that was returned, and it did not explicitly return the contents in the file, and that's what the 304 modified, not modified, lets us know. Then we download the data for questions 12 to 15. So let's hop right into those. How many GET requests did your browser send, and which packet number in the trace contains the GET message? So we see that there is 2 GET requests. One is here and one is here. And we do not have the packet number for the bill of rights. It's not specified, so there would be no way that we would know it off of this. And question 13, which packet number in the trace contains the status code and phrase associated with the response? So if we look through, pardon, we see that packet number 91. So we see the number of the packets here. We see that it has the status code 200 OK associated with the response to the GET. And what is the status code and phrase in the response? As I just said, it is the 200 OK, so we know that everything is all good. And how many data contain in TCP segments? Again, since we don't know the file size, there is at least 1 data containing TCP segment. But there could be more depending on the file size. Then we continue on to questions 16 and 17. So we see that we get 3 GET requests, 1, 2, and 3. And to which internet address were these requests sent? So we can see source versus destination. So we can see they were sent to 2 different addresses, which is 128 and 178, as we have displayed here. For question 17, can you tell whether your browser downloaded the 2 images serially or in parallel? So we can see that they were downloaded in parallel, and we know this because the timestamps for the requests along with the redirect message. So we see that the timestamps are very similar, but since it used the second one, we know that it downloaded in parallel because it used a different address to redirect the message. So that is what allowed it to happen in parallel, since they weren't coming from the exact same address. Finally, for questions 18 and 19, we have our information pulled up again. So we see that what is the server's response in response to the initial HTTP GET? So we can come over here and we can see the original HTTP GET is here. And we can see that the response given is a 401 unauthorized. And when your browser sends the message a second time, what new field is included? There is no new field included, but the only thing I can think of is potentially the 401 authorized message, but it does appear in the previous one as well. So I don't see anything, no new field was included. And as we can see, they are the exact same. Same length, same everything. So without any more, I think we are good to go, and this completes my project 1. Thank you.